Hello, people of the internet.
Hello, I'm Thomas Blair.
And I'm Todd Coleman.
And this is the May Q&A 2018. Man, we've been doing these a long time.
I know. Yeah.
And this is where we take all the questions that you guys ask on our Ace Development Partners Forum, and we answer them for you.
All the Crowfall related questions. The other ones we don't really.
We just kind of
ignore.
Yeah. All right. Well, let's look at the questions.
All right. Questions for the month. We got some good ones this month, right?
Yeah, actually we do. So the very first one, we're leading off with crafter's marks.
Yes, maker's marks, right?
Correct. They're on every crafted item, and they disappeared for about a year and a half.
Yeah, that was a bug, right?
It was a bug, and with the amount of bugs that we have, and the ones that we chew through, sometimes they just slip through the crack. And one of our engineers took the time to fix this one.
Yeah, so this one, it's interesting. The question came up, and the bug finally rose back up to the top.
At the same time. It was like, hey, we just fixed that. So you guys will see those in the new 5.6 that's on test right now. Right. So look forward to that.
Pretty cool.
Win conditions. The tug of war win condition for the campaigns worlds is generally seen as stale. Can you reconfigure the win conditions into
it is certainly stale. I think the bigger problem, though, is it's actually very simplistic, right? Like the first iteration that we did on it, just to get it up, was a simple snapshot at any given moment, who owns what. There's no time component to it at all. So really, there's no reason to bother to hold any of the keeps or forts, because it doesn't matter.
And even when we put that in, forts and keeps didn't have crafting state. There was absolutely no reason.
And since the idea of it, all that matters is the snapshot at the end of the game.
Right.
Well, we didn't have a firm end of the game, so it really kind of. I'm glad the functionality was there. It was great because it meant that we were able to get it up and running and test it. But we absolutely need to go back and do another pass to make that more engaging and more interesting. It just we just hadn't gotten to it yet, so we're actually about to get back to that, as it turns out.
Correct. So we're going to jump into the next question, which is related, which is in 5.7-ish, we will be seeing the worlds turn from one map into zones.
Yeah, we're going to see world clusters for the first time. And so world clusters basically is a way for us to group a bunch of different campaign servers effectively under one umbrella.
Right.
So the first part of that is basically data transference, like just allowing a character with his equipment to walk from one to the other without having to use the spirit bank as a way of lobbing information.
Which is a huge pain in the butt.
That was never the intent. We just weren't
It's where we're at.
Yeah, so this first version now, we will have runegates come up, and the runegate will open and allow me to go from world A to world B. That'll be pretty cool. I'll be able to seamlessly transfer, and the time to do that should be a few seconds. It's not like going to be a massive, and that we actually do have in already, because the spirit bank used to take 2 minutes to transfer items to have the full check-in, check-out, and now it's under 2 seconds to move an item in and out. So that same underlying tech now will allow us to move characters from one world to another world, and we'll be able to glue a bunch of these together with runegates. There still, though, are a whole bunch of dangling kind of tentacle things that touch other systems that aren't going to be functional at first, and we'll have to bring on one after the next. Cluster map, that's another one, right? Like, now we have a bunch of worlds that are interconnected. I need to be able to map those, and I need to have fog of war that's separate for each of them. There's just a whole bunch of little odds and ends that, until they all work, the whole thing is going to be a little clunky.
Right. But the nice thing is you have one character, basically, and you're not logging in and logging out and logging into a new one and creating a new one.
Right.
It should be seamless, and it should feel good.
Now, that said, it will still be that way with the EKs, right? We're not bringing the EKs over into this new clustering system yet. We'll get there, but that didn't seem as important as getting the campaigns up, so we're going to do the campaigns first.
Yeah. So. Look forward to it. Okay, character progression. Are there plans to add a layer of character progression where improved class powers are unlocked through leveling, training, or advancement? Basically, fireball to a longer range.
Whatever. It's the question is, are we going to unlock things based on active advancement instead of having everything gated by passive? I actually like this idea. So we've been talking about this a lot lately, is I feel like, the active, now that it's in, it's kind of cool. I think we should lean a little bit more heavily on active. And that means that while we might not necessarily take things away from passive, by adding more things to active as a percentage of where you players get their overall power, it'll mean we'll lean more heavily on active. So I don't want it to ever get anywhere near kind of the traditional WoW, EverQuest, Daiku Mud model, where it's all based on active. And by active, what that actually means is time investment primarily. I don't want us to go there, but leaning a little bit more into the active, I think, would make the game more engaging.
Okay, next question. Dungeons.
Oh, dungeons.
We've now seen these incredible castles and bell towers with expandable archways and cathedrals. What we haven't seen are the dungeons, the moats, the underground, the dug features.
Yep.
Todd loves all these things.
Are
they on the table?
I'm an old school D&D player, so of course I love dungeons. Dungeons create some particular challenges for us in our current architecture, specifically Unity terrain. Like being able to cut holes in the terrain is incredibly painful. I do think that some of the things we're going to be doing between now and launch will open up that possibility, but I don't expect us to make use of that before launch. After launch, I think we're going to come back and we'll go do more dungeons. In the meantime, what you're going to see is us doing adventuring areas that have dungeon feeling, like the Spider Canyons, with particular forests.
I mean, the canyons, we definitely
canyons.
dig into the ground.
Yeah.
And then the crypt shows us kind of going above with
the rocks on top. So we can do stuff like that will give us kind of the idea and the impression of caves and mazes and labyrinths and things like that. But actually being able to dig into the ground and making it really feel like the Underdark, we don't have that coming. That'll be something that we'll be adding later, would be my guess. So,
all right, next question. Will there be guild support in 5.6?
No, not in 5.6. No. We do need to get that in. But again, it doesn't take priority over zoning, and it doesn't take priority over getting our clusters working. I mean, there's just other stuff that's more important. To architecturally, I want to get that stuff in because we have a bunch of decisions that we have an idea what we want to do, but I really want to feel and see how this works and see if our assumptions are correct before we solidify that. And that means those things need to get
things like guilds are important. It's just there's other things that are
more important, and more risky, frankly.
Right. And will change the gameplay even more. Like I keep saying, mounts and the zones are going to be our next two really big pieces that change the entire landscape.
Yeah, make it feel.
Right, people move around quicker, and the world just got a whole lot bigger. Yeah. And now there's ways to teleport between the worlds.
Yep.
So again, in 5.6, no, but in the future, yes.
Yeah.
Okay, next question.
Cool.
Amazing progress. Wow, the game is coming along nicely. Real life has kept me busy for a while, and I just returned to see how things are going. The improvements.
Did you write this one?
No, I didn't.
Really?
The improvements and additions are very impressive.
Thank you.
It's great to see everything coming together. Huge kudos to the team.
Was there a question, or you just wanted to?
No, I just wanted to read it because we appreciate when people take notice.
That is true. Especially a lot of our. So I know we have kind of a hardcore set. I love you guys who come and check out the news like every week or twice a week or whatever. We forget that we have a fair number of people who at some point in the last couple of years backed us, and they just kind of went away. Yeah. It's not like they were upset. It's just they said, hey, I'm backing your project. Come back with a great game. And they check in like once every 6 months or once every 3 months. And they're like, hey, yeah, wow, you guys have seen a lot of progress. I'll see you again in another 3 months or 6 months. So so we love you guys too. Thank you for coming by, and when you do and you see stuff you like, it is very nice to let the team know.
Yeah,
so
it's always energizing to get feedback that's not about what's currently broke. Because if you focus on what's broken and what's in the pipeline, you just kind of can tunnel vision. When people come back and see how much progress we made, it's always nice for the team to hear that.
Yeah, I agree.
Okay, next question. Open the gates. There are several benefits to being an early adopter. Early access has been one of them. Can we open the floodgates and get more people to stress test the game?
So we actually are pretty quick to open up the gates now. Part of the challenge is we've got 24/7 testing going, and so that doesn't. If we had a limited time window on the test, that would actually cause more people to want to get in, right? Because that scarcity would be like, "Ooh, I want to check and see this thing out, and I can only do it this weekend or whatever." We decided not to do that because we wanted to start getting closer and closer to the idea of running an actual live game service. So that's why we went ahead and put up a live server, and we have a test server that comes up and goes down. Right. We're trying to test those muscles out, kind of flex those muscles a little bit so that we'll be more prepared for launch. So that is a downside, as it means that we might have a couple thousand people get in to check out a new build in the first week it goes live. That's not a bad number, but if you spread that very thinly over the entire week, that means at any given time you don't have these big peaks. So it is what it is. I don't think that I wouldn't change the decision. I think it's the right answer for us as a company, but it does mean that things are more spread. And what we do see is when new stuff comes online, we get a bump in activity, and then people fall off as they exhaust that content or they exhaust those systems. So as more and more systems and content go online, you'll see more more people playing for longer.
Right.
We're still looking at it as a test in a lot of ways. We're not to the point yet where I expect it to actually be a playable game. That's the unfortunate truth. But you can see we constantly are making progress. People are working really hard to get you guys a game. I promise we're doing it in the best way that we know how. So just be patient. Hang with us.
It's coming.
It is coming.
It is coming. Okay, next question. How will imports and exports work with moon gates? Well, we're calling them rune gates.
We call them rune gates. We toyed with the idea of moon gates, kind of as a wink to Ultima, but we ended up going with rune gates.
Right.
I part of that is just because I kept calling them rune gates internally. I kept forgetting that we were doing that. So eventually, rune gates
stuck.
It won out.
So the bulk of this question is how do imports and exports handle going in and out of campaigns? How are you guys going to track that? Does that include disciplines?
Yeah, so there's two different gate types, right? So you've got rune gates, which are within a cluster. I can move from this world to this world to this world to this world, right? And those are there's no import-export requirement there, so that can be very easy. I mean, I just hit from one and go to the next. The other one are the world portals, and we might want to call them portals as opposed to gates or something, just to make it different. And that's moving from this cluster way over here to this cluster. And for that one, we need to put a little bit more work into how to make the import-export process cleaner. We do want to lock it to a particular location or set of locations in the game, so you can't do it from everywhere. For now, at least, we'll continue using Spirit Bank because it's already up and functional. Eventually, we will look at ways to make that a little cleaner, maybe marking or tagging items with effectively a passport stamp. Hey, this helmet has been marked for this world, so it can move in and out without me having to do anything.
Essentially, think of it like I have to go through customs.
Right, exactly,
and
or
tag
something
everything.
like that. So that's a possibility. I'm kind of open on that. I really want to get the rune gates up and running first. Then we get the portals to allow you to go from one cluster to another cluster. And then we'll take a look at it once we can see that field and say, okay, how can we clean this up and make it a little bit more seamless?
All right, next question. Your NPC, AI budget, and world building. Why are you spending your AI budget on so many useless rank 1 and rank 2 mobs?
We only have like 3 mobs done, first of all, right? So that's, I mean, it's like we've got a pig and a
zombie,
spider and a zombie. We have more coming in 5.6 actually. It's not a giant amount more, but it's, 3
we'll get a couple in every,
something like that. And we're just going to keep adding to it over time, building up the catalog. So 5.6 is the first time actually we've had a world come up where a designer did not place all the harvestable dioramas by hand.
Correct.
So whenever you see a clump of anything, like either a monster camp or a or like a harvestable node, mother load node with the little nodes around, those are dioramas. So we create those and we kind of slot them in all over the world randomly. We didn't. Before we put them in, a designer had to actually go in and say, I want, an apple tree over here and I want gold deposit over here or whatever. Now that's actually done with an algorithm. So we can hit a button and it'll completely populate out, a couple thousand dioramas on the world, which is really, really cool. That's all new though. So that's the first step.
Right.
The next step will be parcels in the world. So we will not be arranging where the mountains go and stuff like that. We're working on that now. And the dungeons, like how does this canyon wind and where does it go? So that we're doing that as well.
Well, we also see like the worlds. This is Arborea, for example. I keep bringing this example up. It's a forest world.
Yeah, we haven't done that. We haven't done other biomes yet. So we've done basically our first one. We are now working on our second biome, which is desert. I can go ahead and give you that.
But you're going to go to a world. You're going to go from a rune gate into a desert biome.
And it'll look totally different.
And it'll look like a desert. And you'll jump into this one and it'll be a giant forest.
Yeah, or swamp.
Right now we're kind of building the maps where everything we have, we're just cramming into the map.
Yeah, exactly.
We're just shaking everything in there. And we're going to start seeing separations, specific ranks on specific worlds. So it's going to start to feel more...
Well, and so the algorithm at first also was kind of randomly scattering monsters. So literally last week for the first time, the rank of the parcel was set up so that the closer you get to the center of the world, the higher the rank, right? And that rank affects monster difficulty. It also affects the level of the harvestables, so that now the closer you get out to the edges, which is where the beachheads are, you start with lower rank stuff and you work your way in, both in terms of quality of stuff and in terms of difficulty of the monster. So that's all new. That's just coming online now. So part of this question I know was about why did you put this over here? Why did you put that over there? And for the previous maps, I have no idea, to be honest, why we did. But it also, we knew that eventually we would be replacing that handcrafted designer thing with a procedure, and we're just getting to that now. So,
which will be cool, and it'll mean the maps will never feel the same.
Right. So that would actually be something that would be very helpful as you guys are playing. Definitely give us feedback on how you feel the procedural generation algorithm is working, because it's relatively easy for us to make an adjustment. Right. We had some feedback last week that I thought was really good about the range of monsters that were in the canyons. So in Spider Canyon, at the entrance, the monsters would start at like rank 2 or 3, and then by the boss room, they would get up to 9. And they said that's just too wide of a range. Right? If the canyon is in the middle of the map, all the surrounding monsters are already rank 4. Why do I then come in the beginning of the dungeon and they're at rank 2? That's actually a really valid point. So we adjusted the algorithm, or at least we're trying to adjust the algorithm, and we'll go through, and over time it'll just get better and better and better. So that's the whole goal.
Yep.
So there you go. That's the answer to your question is because it wasn't done yet. That's why.
And we've got new stuff coming online. Which is really cool. Okay. So what do we got here?
I think we've got time probably for one more.
What will trigger season changes?
So right now, the triggering event is just the passage of time. Like we're doing the seasons and day-night stuff right now.
Right now it's just Season of Plenty. I just put the first one in.
Every season is Season of Plenty.
Every season is Season of Plenty for now.
Fair enough. That's fine. But the eventually, I would love to have triggering mechanics where it could be based on other things, like players need to collect something, or players need to do something, and that will, they take a certain number of keeps, or they kill a certain number of mobs, or they sacrifice certain things to the gods, and that could trigger going from Season of Plenty to Season of Bounty, of Season of Reaping to Season of something, which I haven't named. A big focus of our game is the idea that time matters, right? The game is not frozen in carbonite. Like, it's a constant flowing, changing thing.
And you do different things in different seasons.
You do different things in different seasons, and the game that I log into today is not the same game I logged into a week ago or a month ago. That's like the key thing that really is different about our game, is the world really is dynamic. Like, everything about the world.
Everyone just thought that was a marketing bullet
point,
by the way. I'm sure.
Actually the way it
really
works.
Trying to make that work.
And a lot of people say they have dynamic, and that means I make little changes here and little changes there. No, we are completely dynamic. Like, the world changes, the parcel changes, every world is unique. We have seasons, we have day night, like all of that stuff, and that's just starting to come online now. So I think it's going to be really, really cool. You haven't felt it yet in the same way that we built all these worlds out of parcels, but we didn't use the parcels for the purpose they were intended. I was telling Gordon recently, it feels like we went to all the trouble of making and designing Legos, but then we've been gluing those Legos together and saying, here's a toy, play with it, right? So the actual real benefit of doing all this work, it hasn't surfaced yet. You guys haven't seen yet the payoff for that, but you're just starting to now. So that's super exciting. So this is just another one of those, right?
I'm just excited for us to get the whole concept. The concept of us, you stockpile food in the spring.
Yeah.
Because we always said that that's what you're going to do.
Right. Well,
but nobody believed us. It's like, whatever, I'll just go get some apples. And
I still want to have torches that I can use to come and torch your crops. I think that would be really cool, because that becomes now a valid way to, it's part of the strategy game. It's a thing. You bothered to actually grow these crops so that you can come and take the food out of them. I burned them down, and now I screwed you. So I want that kind of stuff. That's where the game starts to get really dynamic. When I say dynamic, that's the kind of stuff that I mean. It's more of a open world simulator as opposed to a theme park. And so anyway, so you guys are going to start to see that, and I think it's going to be really cool.
Yeah, it's going to be great. All right, thanks everybody for coming out for our May 2018 Q&A.
And we will, in the meantime, until next time, we will see you guys in the game. We'll see you on the forums. And again, I just want to throw out the customary thank you. You guys are awesome. We wouldn't be here if it wasn't for you.
Oh, yeah.
Thank you for making this whole project possible.
And giving us the feedback to help us make a lot of positive changes.
Absolutely.
So, all right, we'll see you on 5-6 on the snap tests.
Yep, and then we'll see you again next month. Bye, guys.